This is the Astrology and Tarot Show with Jessica Adams.
Thanks, Shane. This is your psychic astrology for the week starting Monday, March 30. Listen at the Astrology and Tarot Show on substack.com for timestamps for every sign, including yours. Your tarot this week can be decoded at jessicaadams.com. Aries, the Four of Pentacles. Taurus, the Ace of Wands. Gemini, the Nine of Cups. Cancer, the Three of Wands. Leo, the Fool. Virgo, the Nine of Pentacles. Libra, Judgment. Scorpio, the Five of Cups. Sagittarius, the Knight of Cups. Capricorn, the Two of Wands. Aquarius, Temperance, and Pisces, the Queen of Wands. Now, let's have a look at your personal birth chart. If you have Taurus factors, on March 30, Venus goes into Taurus, so April and May will become the most important months of the year for signing off from years of financial and real estate chopping and changing, which began way back in 2018. You will reach a lasting deal and a compromise by May. If you have Libra factors in your birth chart, on April 1, the full moon at 12 Libra is opposite the sun, also at 12 Aries. The person who is your other half or on the other side against you will be in focus on that full moon, give or take 24 hours either side of April 1. Try and act or judge later, as the full moon is always mixed feelings for you or polar opposites on the outside. Finally, if you have Aries factors in your birth chart, on April 1, that full moon at 12 Libra is opposite the sun at 12 Aries. So your reputation, appearance, name, title, image and profile are in the frame. So is your ID and the privacy of your identity online and in the real world. Now, Aries, this financial cycle, which is so unpredictable, also rules your values. So what you will and will not sell out for, and who or what you consider to be so precious, it's priceless and is above mere money. This cycle will end as April also ends. Uranus in Taurus in your second house, which is what this is all about, also marks the end of the 2018-2026 cycle of chopping and changing. And also, let's be honest, shock, because you have been through it all. If you can believe in smooth sailing after so many years of storms since 2018, then your instinct is correct, because the end of Uranus in Taurus in the final week of April is the end of the lightning bolts. Aries people like you have gone through everything from the end of a marriage to the reading of a will to a standoff with the bank to income loss from COVID in 2020 and ongoing. Along the way, though, Aries, you also found independence from someone or something where you very much needed to be free, or you found independence through someone or something, which for you has come to mean a revolution. All of this has kept life pretty unstable for quite a long time. It has been very difficult to predict from one month to the next what the numbers are going to be like for you. And that's even without taking into account what's happening at the moment with the world economy and the price of petrol and gas. However, your astrology chart is really clear that from the final week of April, you turn the corner. There will be a compromise or a deal by May. And then at last you can say, you know what is on the way next. Taurus. Well, if you believe that your value system is worth it, your personal life budget is worth it, you might stage your own revolution in this brand new cycle they call Uranus in Gemini, which starts at the end of April. You will see signs this week. Things feel as if they are not quite fixed, firm, or final, and that is correct. The astrology is, of course, true, and what you are seeing with the headlines about the price rise in petrol and gas is a reflection of this cycle. But what you could do now is perhaps leave a space for the unexpected, as from the final week of April, you begin to build towards a deep change in your life budget, which may bring about the very last thing that you ever expected to happen. This is pretty typical with this cycle, and you would have seen some Aries friends, family, or partners go through it before you. It's also quite a long cycle. It will take you past 2030. So given that you are an earth sign and you like to keep your feet on the ground, and you know who and what is where and what the numbers are, you may not be particularly inclined to want this Uranus cycle going through your second house of life budget. But at the same time, the gifts of this cycle are pretty special. You end up being liberated, you end up being free, you end up being independent from someone or something that would have kept you fenced in for a very long time. All of this is now building in your chart, but in true Uranus style, it won't actually land until it does so with a kind of lightning bolt in the very last 7 days of April, with some sort of deal or compromise for you in May. Gemini. This is the ideal time to loosen up old ideas about money and real estate and become more open to an optimistic angle about what could happen for you with cash, property, possessions, and your life budget. I am talking a lot about money and real estate this week to all the 12 zodiac signs because of what is happening in the world horoscope, which I've also been talking about for quite a few months now. So basically for you, there are advantages here, even though there is instability for so many other people. By June 30 and no later this year, with Jupiter in Cancer, many things could open up for you if you take the opportunity and you accept the solution. It would be on a large scale because Jupiter rules everything that's bigger than you. And in terms of the numbers, you may want to leave more space this week for what is possible because all sorts of things are now bubbling under. We are not now waking up to the same economy that we were waking up to last year. That's what Uranus in Taurus does. We are on the crest of a wave with AI and also with EV, electric vehicles, and that will affect you through a chain reaction. Depending on your line of work or your personal life, it may even be quite direct and personal. But in all cases, Gemini, the knock-on effect or the domino effect of what is going on will benefit you by June 30 if you are open to the big solution or the big opportunity. And this week is a really good time for you to switch on your radar where the numbers are concerned. Cancer. This cycle, which we call the node cycle of karma, will affect 3 separate areas of your life this week, ongoing until the final week of July. The first area is your brother, cousin, or sister. This cycle will reposition you in your relationship with them. You may seek this change out because the old situation is so stuck and repetitive. Yet you may also decide that all you need to do is alter your attitude, your angle, your perspective, and your point of view. And this may involve, let's be honest, a bit of a personality change as well. All of this benefits you, and the karma will be over in just a few months. The second area of your life, which is repetitive now and tied to karma with the South Node in Virgo, is travel, transportation, and how you get around locally and regionally, whether you are commuting or whether you are going across borders into a neighbouring country. The karma is 18 or 19 years old. So if you look back to that time, you will understand that you are owed, or maybe you owe spiritually, which might explain why the wheels keep getting stuck or the wheels keep going round with one situation now. The third area of your life to be affected by this transit, the South Node in Virgo, is communication, online and offline, your way with words and information, the world of the telephone, the web, and the microphone. What it means to have the South Node in Virgo in this zone of your chart is doubly important if you also have Gemini factors in your birth chart. In fact, what's going on is going to change your life, and it will happen very suddenly from the close of April right through to June. Even if you don't have Gemini factors in your chart or you just don't know, you do have a karmic situation here with the internet or the media, education or publishing or fundamental communication, but it stops in the final week of July. Leo, major changes coming in your social life, your friendships, your social media, and your group involvements from the end of April. And there are many clues this week. The big picture for you reveals a change of socializing, groups and friendships for you more than once, and a revolution ahead. This begins in the final week of April. And as you will see by June and July, it's a different world out there for you with your community or your circles, perhaps with your social media. Wider changes in your community or in your circle will have a knock-on effect, which means that you will end this cycle past the year 2030 in a completely different space to where you are now. It will be liberating, exhilarating, unpredictable, revolutionary, radical, and in many ways, this week is the calm before the storm. Storms release tension, and this transit, which we call Uranus in Gemini in your 11th house, will release a lot of energy into the atmosphere for you online and in the real world. If you have anything in Aquarius in your birth chart, Leo, you can double that message. This will, in fact, end up transforming your life. Virgo. Your career, your unpaid role, or your academic career will change dramatically from the final week of April. Leave a space for that. Fate will intervene several times during this long, new Uranus in Gemini cycle, which takes you past the year 2030. So that, Virgo, you're caught up with wider trends, the zeitgeist affecting your industry, your profession, or your lifestyle. How can you resist a chance to go to the next level? In terms of your role or your goals, well, the answer is that you can't, and you probably won't. In fact, you have a double whammy here, Virgo, because when we look at your 6th house of workload and well-being, you have Pluto there for 20 years, and that's transformation. So everything looks pretty dynamite from the final week of April going into May, with a major decision by June about how you're going to work and how you're going to live. With Uranus, all the U words apply. So it will be unique, unprecedented, highly unusual, unorthodox, and totally unexpected. So rather than guess this week or assume that you know what's coming next or make firm plans for the second half of the year, you may want to leave an open space. Libra. The final week of April is not that far off, and you may see clues this week about foreigners, foreign countries, the world part of the World Wide Web, publishing or academia, because what is coming is completely new and very different. There was a taste of this last year, but even that won't resemble what is going to happen with Uranus and Gemini in the 9th house of your solar chart. Changes within people from other cultures, abroad or at home, will affect you. Changes within you also are part of the story. What is happening here is a cycle that has been observed for a very long time. It is always about overturning the old and breaking with the past, and it is very much about being free on a level that is at the moment probably beyond your imagining. What is in store will be completely new, and in many ways it's not even on the drawing board. It wouldn't be a total surprise if we were talking about migrants, travellers, your holiday, travel, export, emigration, bilingual skills, and so on. But how it works out with you depends on your personal birth chart. A lot of this has got to do with what you have in Sagittarius in your chart, if you have anything there, in which case you're going to be on a bit of a roller coaster. But whatever your chart looks like, Libra, this is the time to open up to the fact that people from other cultures, nationalities, and countries are going to be a passport to freedom for you. And if there is anything about them which has restricted or confined you, that looks as though it's up for a very short shelf life. Scorpio. Well, power and control issues this year are acted out through your landlord, landlady, tenant, flatmate or roommate, any live-in partner, of course the family, neighbours, building managers, the council, or even your government, affecting how you live and how you feel about your country. All of this comes from Pluto in Aquarius, and it will impact how you live and where you live. And sometimes, Scorpio, it will feel as if you are being swept along with masses of other people. This particular cycle is also about property, real estate, patriotism, national identity, and it has its own kind of momentum. In fact, you are ruled by Pluto in astrology. Pluto has always ruled Scorpio since its discovery in 1930. So what is happening now feels as if you are meeting a moment that you have always known would arrive, with the family in particular, and perhaps with the household as a whole. You have already been on this road for a couple of years now, and one thing that you're taking away this week is that if you want to have empowerment, you will use your willpower And if you want to have control or take it back, you will use your self-control too. Sagittarius. This multiple Aries cycle in your 5th house affects 3 different areas of your life. Firstly, the world of children and babies, your own or other people's. Secondly, the world of courtship and the bedroom. And finally, everything you do in the name of a younger generation. This may be your daughter. It may be a voluntary role you have with Generation Z. It may be a career which involves a younger generation, millennials or Generation Z. It may be all sorts of things depending on your personal birth chart. But if you have anything in Leo there, Sagittarius, you are up for incredible opportunities and solutions not possible in 12 years, which will begin on June 30. If you do have Leo in your chart, furthermore, you are owed good karma from 18 or 19 years ago, which will begin as you go through August. But whatever your chart looks like, what we have this week is a lot of questions here which need to be answered about parenting, adoption, custody, nannies, babysitters, schools, child welfare, teenagers, children's health, and so on. You could put IVF on that list as well. What it means to have Saturn, Neptune, and Chiron all in Aries, all in your 5th house, is that you probably need 3 different strategies or 3 different approaches. Sagittarius this week, that would be patience because of Saturn. It would be the willingness to escape and take a holiday from reality, which is Neptune. And finally, it would be a willingness to experiment with what other people say is beyond the pale, unthinkable, or just downright unheard of. Capricorn. Well, looking at your chart this week, you appear to need progress. You won't be satisfied with your old place in the scheme of things where the world of children, teenagers, and younger adults is concerned. This is the very last stage of a cycle that began in 2018, which is all about your independence and your freedom. It is the same story and has been the same story for many years with babies, children, teenagers, or millennials. And this week, the stage is set for final change. To remain where you are with your old views will leave you feeling stuck. You seem to want something that's different, or we could say that something different very much wants you to play your part. And that would be evident for you just in the next few weeks. It could be dating a woman with an adult son, or perhaps separating yourself from your husband's daughter. It may be pursuing IVF, adoption, or single parenthood. You may be a teacher, so the issue here may be a class full of teenagers that you teach. However you are affected, if you have anything in Leo in your birth chart, Capricorn, this is the beginning of the greatest opportunity and solution in 12 years, which will start on June 30 as Jupiter goes into Leo. Aquarius. When it comes to your family, you could attempt things this week which force other people to change their own position or perspective, at least until the final week of April, when this particular Uranus and Taurus cycle ends. Try not to be too radical unless you're absolutely certain of the end results. And even then, there's a bit of a caveat because you're in this cycle of unpredictability. In fact, you've been here since 2018. So every time you think that you can be radical and know the outcome, you probably can't. To be perfectly honest with you, Aquarius. So try to tune in and time your moves according to the general mood. That way you could wake up and find yourself part of a wave of family or household progress, playing your part, or in touch with something bigger than you are, which gives you freedom as well as them. What it means to have Uranus, your ruling planet, in Taurus, in the 4th house for the last time in your life, is that you are signing off from a long experiment when everything and everybody was always subject to change. In fact, just when you thought you knew that things had settled, they really hadn't at all, with the prime example being 2020 and 2021. If you have anything in Cancer in your birth chart, you actually stand to gain from this final cycle, Aquarius, as you are being shown solutions and opportunities that are not possible in 12 years, up until June 30. Whatever your chart looks like, the general feeling here is that freedom and independence are worth any amount of disruption or upheaval, and there may be one last pull of the rug before this cycle finally ends in the last week of April. Pisces, this new July cycle happily affects 2 areas of your life as Jupiter will go into Leo and your 6th house. In July, the first set of opportunities and solutions will cover your job, your unpaid work, your daily routine, or your academic career. The second area of solution and opportunity from July will cover your health, fitness, and your well-being, your mental health, and your lifestyle as a whole. Maybe you already know that July and August are turning points in your calendar, or maybe that is yet to come, but your chart is clearly showing that things are going to turn around for you. This is quite a rare cycle. You don't see Jupiter in Leo more than once every 12 years. And going into your 6th house, it's very much about the nuts and bolts of everyday life. It's not so much career highs or success or status. It's far more about feeling contented with a job well done, or even service and duty to others, which you are not paid for, but you find enormously fulfilling. A high percentage of Pisces people from July and August will be in new jobs or courses for that very reason. At the moment, you are being invited to do everything on a bigger scale, as Jupiter cycles are like that. And even though at the moment you definitely have a lot of numbers to add up and subtract, as the finance zone of your chart is packed, you would also be crazy not to see which way the wind is blowing in terms of roles and goals and lifestyle changes in July and August, which will take you through to the middle of 2027 and only stand to benefit you. This week, I'm going to finish by looking at the end of Uranus in Taurus, which I have been talking about, and the beginning of Uranus in Gemini, which affects every single sign of the zodiac. If you have Taurus factors in your personal birth chart, I have been talking about the instability and the shock waves to come for quite a long time. And even then, you can never really prepare. So what is happening by the time you hear this is the last gasp of Uranus in Taurus. It will produce a different system economically, financially, in your country, in your town, in your city, and in the world for a long time to come, as this is the last hurrah. Something which has prevented all of us from being free economically is destined to be cleared away by the final week of April, and it may be money laundering, or it may be cryptocurrency. It may be what they just call the world economy and the system. However you define it, what we see on this cycle and what we've seen watching it ever since the last war, actually, is that there is usually a sense of great release and a break with the past. The old currency, the old system, the way of doing things that we became so used to becomes null and void. It happens very quickly too, because Uranus in astrology is associated with the lightning bolt, the electrical storm, the shock, and also the last thing that we expect. In fact, the carriage is overturned and we are thrown sideways. When that happens, what you do is you roll with it. You don't hang on and try to go back to where you came from. You just accept what has happened and you move on. And that's exactly what's going on at the moment. This is all leading somewhere, and it's just common sense. Anybody can see that we are heading towards an electrical vehicle world economy. This has been happening for quite some time, but it has never gone mainstream or really become accepted by the majority. But with Uranus, the revolution in Gemini, short journeys and commuting, it's surely going to unfold sooner rather than later. In fact, there are many people in big business who use astrology who have seen it coming and been preparing for it, as everything is always about timing. Uranus is an important symbol in your horoscope, and if you want to find out what it is about your life that is always unpredictable, unstable, liberating, exhilarating, revolutionary, and radical, almost on a regular basis, you look up your Uranus sign and the house that Uranus is in natally. This is something that you share with everybody born in your class at school. So you could call yourselves a generation who have a particular leaning towards one area of life or another, where you seek to experiment, be free, and change the rules. So, for example, if you were born with Uranus in Libra, you are part of that generation who wanted equal marriage. What you want would have shocked some of your grandparents or great-grandparents, but your generation has brought that in because it sets everybody free. If you were born with Uranus in Virgo, so you're older, probably in the 1960s, you are set free by health, becoming the boss of your own health and well-being, taking care of your own preventative health measures and breaking free of the old system that your grandparents knew where you got sick and had to see a doctor. Every single generation has a different Uranus signature in their chart. When Uranus goes into Gemini, from the final week of April, well past the year 2030, something happens that is quite new for you. It's what they call transiting Uranus, aspecting natal Uranus. And therefore, you can expect change to be met with change regarding what your generation finds so liberating. And it won't be anything that you ever anticipated. When you were growing up, it won't be anything that has even been thought of. A really key question with Uranus to ask yourself, particularly this week, is what is it about my life and about myself that I find holds me back, fences me in, or pigeonholes me? What keeps me restricted or confined? Because 9 times out of 10, that is the very thing that this cycle will completely remove for you. I'll talk more about that over the coming weeks, but thanks for listening, and I'll catch up with you next week.